On Newsnight tonight, government commits to pay outstanding coupons and principals in 48 hours after affected individual bondholders issued a stern ultimatum.
It is worrying and nobody is happy. We are giving by Thursday evening if we haven't received the coupons. Well, we have a lot of options.
We've given the ultimatum. At the end of the ultimatum, if nothing is done, we'll meet and then we'll look at the other options, taking the trees.
Tonight, former Greek minister and MPP flag bearer aspirant reveals he did not receive all the resources he needed to transform the country's economy through agriculture for the 6 years he served in cabinet.
The president's priority is free education. For me, the priority would be agriculture.
And not education?
Well, but where do you fund education from?
So what did he do about the funding challenges he faced while in cabinet?
As a cabinet minister, I swear an oath of secrecy. But if you know my character, I'm not somebody who will sit in a corner and weep. I have to draw attention to it, which I did.
Also tonight, opposition NDC fights smaller political parties over controversial law that makes the Ghana card the only ID for voter registration. We'll tell you why the NDC is questioning why the EC must prioritize the contribution of smaller political parties in decision making at IPAC when they do not have representation in parliament.
If you are adding mushroom parties and rating them with the same weight as NDC, the law gets passed in parliament. There are only two parties. If you like, go and ask Akradonko to go and speak in parliament.
Also tonight, the ranking member on the Health Committee disputes government's claims that no person has died as a result of the recent vaccine shortage.
The president on this floor of the House said that he had recorded no death. The minister also repeated that is again palpable falsehood. We have recorded about 5 fatalities.
We have details as he demands full disclosure regarding the origin of the recently received vaccines.
Mr. Speaker, these vaccines were coming from Nigeria. Of course, I have absolutely no problem if FDA confirms that these are good vaccines. But Mr. Speaker, the bigger question is that how come Nigeria has excess vaccines and we don't have?
And in business, Finance Ministry and Bank of Ghana make progress on reaching a deal on the zero financing as precondition for IMF program. But what could be the implications for the economy and government finances?
And in sports, FIFA scraps initial 3-team group format for the expanded 2026 World Cup following fears of collusion among teams. We'll bring you details from the Association Council meeting in Kigali, Rwanda.
You want to stay with us for more here on News 9055111197. Let's start with that developing story about the domestic debt exchange. As you may well know, government had been in default for quite some time now, since the 6th of February, when billions of cedis were due to be paid out to individual bondholders. Government failed to do so. Well, tonight there is a statement, and it comes on the heels of a sternly issued ultimatum by individual bondholders who have begun already agitating against government's decision not to communicate anything on the matter. But as we've been reporting in the last few minutes, the Finance Ministry has now issued a statement clarifying that the coupons and the principals that matured on the 6th of February and later will now be paid, as the government says, in the next 48 hours. The payments will affect coupons that matured on the 6th of February and on the 13th of February. And the ministry says the processes have now been completed and the payments will begin. The statement also clarifies that payment dates for subsequent maturities will be communicated in due course as processing continues. There are many more individuals holding on to government bonds in this country that had their coupons mature and due post the 13th of February. The Finance Ministry says that those will be settled and the dates communicated in due course. One of the groups that today has issued a statement demanding clarity from the Finance Ministry is the Pensioner Individual Bondholders Forum. Dr. Edwin Anienchi is the convener for the group and joins us on the telephone line right now. Doc, I'm pretty sure you've seen this latest statement from the Finance Ministry. Does that address the concern that you had expressed in your statement earlier today?
Well, thank you. I'm hearing the content of the statement from the press. I haven't seen it myself, but if that has been issued, that's good for that statement to come out. Even though, as I have always said, that is not how financial market players and operators in the market must work. You don't wait and go past certain milestones or targets before you issue a statement. If you are not able to pay, what the issuer should have done was to make a statement before the expiration of the payment date, but not after. Why would the ministry not learn from the earlier one that was also passed, and we had to go there and ask questions before answers are given and the statement made? And I thought that was going to be the end of this kind of how the ministry is behaving in the market. The ministry representing the government is in the financial market, and it must do its work as other corporate issuers are doing the financial market. If information must come, the issuer must put down that information, must bring the information. You can't pay on the 13th, and you are not able to tell the market that as a result of ABC, I cannot pay on the 13th. You wait for 13th to pass, you wait for 14th to come before you come out with this statement. That is not how financial market players should be working.
Please stay with me, Dr. Edwin Anentwi. Martin Kpebu is with the Individual Bondholders Association of Ghana. Martin, have you seen the statement? It's clear from the statement that I have in my hands that the government is committing to pay you and your members whose coupons and principals matured on the 6th and 13th in 48 hours.
Evans, I'm also hearing about the statement from you guys. So you see the extent to which Mr. Furiata and the president disrespect bondholders. I'm hearing about it from you. At least Kesi would have even demanded that they would have given us advance copies. Mr. Furiata has our telephone numbers. You can call his staff to talk to us before. And now we are hearing it on radio. And Evans, that's one thing that's been recurring over and over. Mr. Furiata is super incompetent. The way he's bangled this domestic debt exchange program from the beginning to the end, messed up everything. At every stage, his incompetence shows up. At every stage, his incompetence shows up. Citizens ask that the president fires him, but the president cannot because the two of them have made money through data bank. The fees and commissions they've made on these bonds. You see why the president will not sack him. He should wait. When the Arab Spring starts, then he will see that yes, he's really been a very poor ruler in Ghana.
Dr. Anentwi, so this payment will cover those coupons and principals that matured on 6th and the 13th. Is that sufficient, though?
I don't think that is sufficient. At the last meeting I had with the finance minister, I said that if the government knows or thinks that it cannot pay all the matured coupons and the mature bonds with its coupons, the statement that was issued on the 27th, that statement should be clear. When the statement came, there was no such thing. So to me, as far as I'm concerned, being a market person, if such a statement is issued, you take it that by the 13th of March, every bond that has matured at that time will be paid. So it's just this statement that you are saying that is now clarifying that some will be paid, some will not be paid. Then my question is, why didn't you say it? And I raised that day. That if you think that you can't meet all the matured bonds, the statement that you are bringing out on that 27, let it be clear. You didn't state that It's now that you are stating that some will be paid and some will not be. I am still saying that that is not how we should run our financial markets.
And Martin, I know many of your members, and I know some bonds had their coupons due on the 7th of March, for example. That's the latest one, I believe. They will not be covered by this payment. The ministry says, quote, payment date for subsequent maturities will be communicated in due course as processing continues. So there's no timeline for this. The closest they come to this is due course.
Yes, Evans, and that sounds a death knell for our members, those in that category, because then it means that their plans haven't been already ruined. They can't even make any readjustment. They can't plan for the future. So we are just left in the dust, and that's not how to run a bond program. That's not how to do it. You see, and government has money, Evans. I've said it over and over. Government has money to pay, except that they are not prioritizing bondholders because they think we will always require it. But Evans, they are mistaken. The Arab Spring will come because by President Kufuor's own judgment, when he was in opposition, the time he was calling for the Arab Spring, conditions were not this bad. Evans, look, people see me every day and they tell me that, look, Martin, you are not angry. We are angrier than you. Just wait. When we show our anger, you will understand. So that's the Arab Spring coming, and President Kufuor will flee without his standards. Then he will see that, yes, he's really messed us up for nothing. I mean, there were signs. Evans, you remember, look, the World Bank gave us warning at the beginning of 2020 that we are at a high risk of debt distress. That's the pro. If you Google it, you see World Bank, IMF. Then when COVID hit in March 2020, when COVID started, World Bank came with a program, debt suspension. We refused to participate in it because President Kufuor and Furiata knew that if we do, Data Bank will no longer make commissions from our borrowing because the World Bank will restrict us and all that. So they didn't take part in it and then landed us in this deep problem. Then in the interim, he was bashing in the skies, in the private jets, all that. I mean, come on, he's going to pay for it. I said President Kufuor will pay for this misgovernance. Yeah, this poor governance. He will pay for it. You wait, Evans. This thing has to stop. We can't take this. Evans, no, I don't know if you guys haven't seen it. Times are hard, though. Times are hard. People can't buy food. People can't pay their rent. People can't pay school fees. Go to the market now. You see how prices have doubled. We are suffering. We are suffering. Look, the minimum Kufuor and the Furiata can do is that the money Data Bank makes, they can return it and say, you know what, listen, we want to return this money so that at least some bondholders can be paid. Evans, you remember the medical doctor? A medical doctor who served and treated so many patients. Eventually, he himself fell sick. Now he's waiting for his bond to be paid so that he can buy his medication. That doesn't move President Kufuor and Ofuriata. How insensitive can they be?
I mean, Dr. Donanty, very finally, I mean, any of your members affected by the subsequent maturing bonds, not only for principal but coupons, post the 13th of February? And what do you plan to do now, as the statement doesn't quite state when those bonds are matured or coupons are due post the 13th will be paid?
Well, we would look at the statement and understand it well. And if we have to raise any issues, we would be raising.
I'm grateful. That's Dr. Edwin Aniemchi, is the convener of the Individual Pensioners Forum, and you also had Martin Kpebu, who is convener for the Individual Bondholders Association of Ghana. Are you affected by this? Let me hear from you. 05511 You're still live here on News 90s on Joy 99.7 FM. Tonight, the National Democratic Congress is fighting smaller political parties over the controversial law that will make the Ghana card the only ID for voter registration. The smaller political parties with no representation in Parliament had jointly held a press conference yesterday and backed the Electoral Commission's constitutional instrument set to be laid in Parliament. Tonight, the NDC is also questioning the EC's basis for prioritizing the stake of these smaller political parties in major decision-making that affects the interest of major parties with representation in Parliament. Now, since 2021, the NDC has declined invitation to participate in the Inter-Party Advisory Committee that discusses election-related matters. Speaking exclusively to Blaise Soga on the Pulse on Joy News, the chairman of the NDC, Asiru Nketia, said the posture of the chairperson of the EC, Evans Mensah, has strained relations.
Electoral Commission has refused for 14 months now. They have refused to even grant audience to the Peace Council.
You're stating this on authority?
As a fact, yes. Call Peace Council. The last time I stated it, we had done 8 months. People disagreed. I wanted to contest that fact. And I said that call the Peace Council people. Call civil society organizations in governance who also started another parallel effort aimed at achieving the same thing. IDEC, CDD, and the others, they also put together a roadmap. Electoral Commission has refused to also buy into any such roadmap. As for the Peace Council, that is not an NGO. It is another state institution that has a role to play in making sure that Ghanaians live in peace. They want to talk to you, another state institution, and you say you cannot meet them.
Who is stopping this?
Now, it's the chairperson and the members of the commission. They say we can't meet you, and they are not saying they can't meet them. Oh, we are traveling, we are doing this. Something that borders on the security of the nation. And the National Peace Council has been trying for the past 14 months to meet you to discuss. And you turn around when you want to pass a wrong law, and they tell you, why didn't you engage NDC? You say, oh, majority of parties have agreed. Who are the majority parties?
Yeah. But they are political parties here.
I say, who are they? That is why, well, if you are adding mushroom parties and rating them with the same weight as NDC, the law gets passed in Parliament. There are only 2 parties. If you like, go and ask Akradonko to go and speak in Parliament.
You're not being fair to the smaller parties, are you?
Oh, they don't have that much at stake. Their stake in what is going to happen is not as big as ours. And that is the point Electoral Commission must recognize. You understand?
Right.
So we are saying that, well, hard on the training grounds, easy on the battlefield. In the past, we will trash all these differences at IPAC. You, by design, want to exclude us at IPAC. We say, fine, we are waiting, don't wait to Parliament.
I want to bring in the General Secretary of the CPP, Nana Jantoa, joins us on the telephone line right now. Thank you for your time here on Newsnight.
Thank you, Evans.
I mean, this was triggered. These comments you've just listened to was triggered by, from what I understand, the joint press conference your party and others held. Let me just clarify. Was your party part of that joint?
We don't know about it. We saw it in the media. In our party there are structures. Let me send greetings to your listeners and greetings to anybody if you have a guest in the studio. Greetings to my CPP comrade. In my party there are structures. You cannot just go join a press conference without authorization from the party. And we saw it in the newspapers like you, like anybody else. And we were not there. We were not even aware that something like that was going on. But while it is their prerogative, it's their democratic right. And I mean, nobody can fault them if they want to also add their voice to the argument, to the discourse.
The discourse. Asiru Nketia makes a bigger point that affects CPP as well, because you don't have a representation in Parliament. It says when it comes to big issues of national concern as far as elections are concerned, he doesn't understand why the EC will even prioritize your voice in the matter, because your stake is pretty minimal. Your reaction?
I heard him. This is not the first time he has said that. I think he has an entrenched position on that. But such a statement is not very pleasant. It's not very fortunate, because all of us are in the political arena. And for you to add your voice, it's not only from Parliament. There are other avenues where you can exact your voice. You can talk about issues as a political party. One of them is a press conference. One of them is we are talking now. There are lots of avenues for you to add your voice. When there is an election and we are paying filing fees, the EC does not say that because other parties don't have representation in parliament, they are paying less. You all pay the same level of filing fees, both for the presidential and the parliamentary. I mean, the conditions in the constitution regarding representation in the various districts applies to all of us. Also, it does not, I mean, you don't have to say it's only parliament. Parliament is there, but if you are not in parliament, you also exist. A political party has a license. When it comes to electoral matters, it is not only about parties, even about Ghanaians. It's about the individuals. Because elections affect us. Elections affect our wherewithal. Elections affect our security. Elections affect the way we do things. If elections go wrong, the whole nation goes wrong. So it is not only about representation in parliament, it's about what Ghanaians are talking about. So the fact that some parties don't have representation in parliament, it does not mean that they are inconsequential. It does not mean that they do not exist. Parties do exist and they've been given the license to operate.
Let me ask you about this substantive matter. For the CPP, where do you stand on this CI that will make the Ghana card the sole ID for voter registration?
You see, we will come up with where we stand because we'll have a meeting very soon of our central committee, the highest administrative body, and we are going to come up with exactly where we stand. But the issue is that there is a law, and everybody knows that law, and this year has brought up that law. It talks about using the Ghana card to vote. So the question that I asked is that where is the source document for using the guarantor system to enable somebody to get a voter ID? We need to go and look for that source document. Where is it? Where does it say that we should do that? Is it a question of a practice, a question of a norm? What is it? Because you see, with this guarantor system, even if you are looking for a Ghana card, you use the guarantor system, where somebody can guarantee for you by swearing an affidavit. So then it means that we need to have a dispassionate argument. We need to be able to have data to say that such and such people will not be able to get the Ghana card because of their location. This morning I was asking that when the EC starts registering people at their district offices, we need to be able to know that the district offices are close to certain locations. I use in Zulezu, in the western region, where they sit on stilts. Is there a close by office? These are things that we should be talking about. Because you see, there is a law, and it makes the argument very difficult when there is a law which is very categorical. Then we need to also go and look for the source document for the guarantor system. We also need to look at the passports as a document, because today, if I leave Ghana and I go to the United States of America, I go to Nigeria, I go to anywhere, what identifies me as a Ghanaian is not my Ghana card. It is my passport. If I go and show my Ghana card to a policeman anywhere outside this country, suddenly I'm facing a deportation, because that person wants to know whether I have a document that identifies me as a Ghanaian that allows me to stay in that country for a certain period of time. So let's have a very dispassionate argument. You see, when we start trying to segment political parties and say this is this, this is that, it is not very pleasant, because Ghana is not a duopoly. We need to insist on that. Ghana is a multi-party democracy. make multi-party democracy thrive. The fact that two parties have had the opportunity to be in parliament for this time around, and we shouldn't forget that CPP was in parliament at a certain time, PNC was in parliament at a certain time.
Yeah, I mean, the Surin Getia says, well, it's no more, and so that should count for quite a lot. Thank you very much, Nanaya Jantwa. Yes, she's the General Secretary of the CPP. Talking about the CI, the major controversy revolves around its laying in Parliament, and then the 21 working days just begin to count. So what has happened to it since? Let's bring in our parliamentary correspondent, Kweku Asante, joins us now. Kweku, has it been laid? Hello, Kweku. Hello.
Has not been laid as repeated on the other couple of time now.
Kweku, I'm struggling to hear you. You might want to reposition yourself. You're saying that it hasn't been laid yet.
Is it better now?
Great, yes.
Yeah, the CI has not been laid yet. Indeed, it has appeared on a number of occasions, and we're expecting the debate to happen on the floor. And in respect of that, even the committee of the whole that was held with the EC boss in place, our report has still not been put before Parliament. As we speak from today, Parliament has only 14 sittings to go on break. It could be less depending on when they go on break. And so even if this CI is laid today or tomorrow, the EC will not get its 21 days before Parliament goes on break. And that's been a concern. Some of the information we've also been getting is having to do with the numbers game. The NDC have asked its MPs to come to the floor every single sitting, and they've been doing so for some time now. It is not so clear on the NDC side because we have to someone like Adjuster who's not around. We also understand another minister is not in town as we speak. So the majority leadership are also looking at the numbers game as of now. If the CI is laid, you will need to tell MPs to annul it from coming into effect. And the minority don't have that numbers. They are saying that they're going to speak to people within the NPP, people like Kennedy Japan, who have already spoken out in opposition to this CI. So they are doing that kind of reconciliation in Parliament. But as we speak, it has not come up on the floor since the Electoral Commission boss and the NRA officials came to brief MPs.
Thank you very much, Kweku. Still live on News 90 on Joy 99.7 FM. Let me share a few of your messages on the WhatsApp console with you. This one from Promise and Cater, today's nation's addresses, like how, it talks about the Promise and Cater says it seems that EC is just joking with 2024 elections. Why not listen to the predecessor, Dr. Kojo Afarajan, who has been speaking today, by the way. Ghanaians are not joking with these, he says, fabled arguments EC is making. That's his position on the subject. And another one on the subject of the bonds, this says, let me share with you. He's talking about the bonds that had now been, and George Yafe will bring us more on that particular story very shortly. Evans, why the cancellation of the road tolls in the first place? That's on the Nandes Painters Roads. The people they borrow from told their country's roads barred. Has the reasons for the cancellation changed? Is a question that is asked there. And a final one still on the road subject. Many of you joining us on Agboju's argument. It says does not make sense. The money used for the construction of the road wasn't only generated from the road-related revenue. So why do you want to use road tolls revenue for only road-related expenditure items? A few of your comments there. Still ahead, former Greek minister and MPP flag bearer aspirant reveals he did not receive all the resources he needed to transform the country's economy through agriculture for the 6 years he served in cabinet.
The president's priority is free education. For me, the priority would be agriculture.
And not education?
Well, I mean, but where do you fund education from?
So what did he do about the funding challenges he faced while serving in cabinet?
As a cabinet minister, I swear an oath of secrecy. But if you know my character, I'm not somebody who will sit in a corner and weep. I have to draw attention to it, which I did.
And then later, buying chilled sachet water from a man in suit. That's how a level 200 student is earning money to fund his tuition. But is that enough to sustain him in a harsh economy?
The 2.5 bags, if I sell one bag, I get 4 50 pesos. Sometimes I will be on campus and my grandma will be like, Kobe, she needs money.
You want to stay with us for that and more. George is here with details from the world of business. Hello, George.
Hi, Evans. And coming up in business, Finance Ministry and Bank of Ghana make progress on reaching a zero financing deal as precondition for the IMF program. But could this come with some serious shocks for the economy and government's whole financing program and coupon and principal payments to cover bonds that matured on 6th and 13th of February? That is last month when it comes to what is being done to settle these bonds that didn't participate in the domestic debt exchange program. The business news on Newsnight is brought to you by MTN Business. Welcome to the new world of business. Allianz Life and Ghana Pay. You're welcome back to Business on Newsnight. Now, Bank of Ghana and the Finance Ministry are making some progress on reaching a deal when it comes to financing government operations. Now, but what would be the implications of this action for the bigger economy and government finances? As we hear, Bank of Ghana has already started taking some steps to try and enforce this zero financing. There is more in this report.
We understand that the memorandum of understanding that will guide this arrangement is ready. What is left now is the Finance Minister Ken Oforiatta and Governor of the Bank of Ghana Dr. Ernest Addison to append their signatures to the document. The document has passed the necessary reviews from the two institutions. This is more of an interim deal that the two institutions have worked out, pending that final agreement that will put forward by government for Parliament's approval when it comes to the zero financing program. The document is currently with the Finance Ministry, but looking at the challenge in getting Parliament's approval during the IMF program, one is not sure whether Parliament this time round will give its blessing to the zero financing deal. However, we understand the Bank of Ghana has already started taking steps that could result in some sort of strict compliance to this zero financing deal. However, one is not sure how this could impact on other commitments in the coming weeks.
And that is a business desk report. Now, coupon and principals that matured on 6th and 13th of February, that is 2023, will benefit from the payments for bonds that didn't sign up to the domestic debt exchange program. Now, Joy Business is learning that the Bank of Ghana has made the necessary payments to the commercial banks. Now, therefore, the accounts of these bondholders should be credited from this evening and even tomorrow as well. The Finance Ministry in a statement noted that it will announce the payments date for bonds that matured on February 20 and even this month as well. Local currency continues to firmly stabilize against the US dollar. The rate of depreciation against the greenback has slowed significantly since last month. Bloomberg News, for instance, is saying that local currency has gained about 5% to the US dollar for this month. Now, some market watchers are linking it to the improved dollar support coming from the Bank of Ghana. Some also believe it is rather the savings that government is making when it comes to the domestic debt exchange program. This is because government has made some savings when it comes to dollar payments that it should have made to investors that bought into the Eurobonds. Government is also projected to make about 30 billion Ghana cedis in terms of savings and interest payments that it should have made this year alone to investors that have placed funds in the various government bonds. Some have argued that the stability could even be sustained if Ghana is able to secure a deal with the IMF in time to help stabilize the economy. Two other stories. The Executive Secretary of the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers, Duncan Amwa, has stated that government's gold for oil program is likely to create some disruptions in the market. According to him, Ghana could be at risk of possible fuel shortage under this program. He has been speaking at an engagement with the British High Commissioner.
we wake up and say we are going to a deregulated market, and then government wakes up again to say that I'm going to control 50%, we have said, if you come in and say that I'm bringing in cargo from elsewhere, and that cargo is being pre-financed by Bank of Ghana, what are you telling the existing players, the BDCs? Should Bank of Ghana not finance them equally? If they had planned their cargoes for the year, then you come in to disrupt everything and insist that you are taking 50% of the market. Whatever license fees you collected from them, are you willing to refund? Clearly, we will not only destroy these people who have sustained the market, we would also destroy the market, and at some point, the queues you find forming in Nigeria could visit Ghana simply because government now finds a space that it could go to explore, and that space eventually they will make their profit, but the space would suffer for it.
And that is the Executive Secretary of the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers, Duncan Amwa, speaking at a meeting at the British High Commission on this Gold for Oil program. The economic benefit of the ruling of the international maritime boundary is yet to be realized both in Ghana and Ivory Coast in terms of its full economic benefits. That is almost up to 6 years ago. Now, this is despite many efforts made by the country to explore hydrocarbons around the litigated areas offshore. President Akufo-Addo made the disclosure in the speech at the opening of the National Honours and Awards 2023 when he gave awards to individuals and institutions that supported the country during the hearing in Hague and also the fight against COVID-19.
The judgment of the tribunal has brought finality to a maritime boundary dispute that had been extant over 5 decades. Although the precise economic impact has yet to be conclusively established, what has emerged quite clearly is that our western maritime boundary remains intact. Indeed, many were those who feared that the outcome of the judgment would strain the friendship that exists between Ghana.
And that's President Akufo-Addo. Now, the awards Chief Executive of Multimedia Group, that is Kwesi Chuman, Senior Partner for KPMG Ghana, Anthony Sapom, were among some of these individuals that were awarded for their contribution in the fight against COVID-19. Now, Senior Partner for KPMG has also been speaking to Joy Business about the honors, and he talks about how that will go a long way to help in their business going forward. To other stories, GB Foods Ghana says it is poised to work with government to ensure food security in the country. According to its chairman, Evans Mensah, the company will engage key stakeholders within Ghana's agricultural sector to continue to expand its operations. Now, speaking at the factory expansion of GB Foods, he stated that measures have already taken place or put in place to take advantage of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, which is key to the growth of the company.
We can play also a relevant role in Ghana's food security. And our ambition is to achieve a fully Ghanaian supply chain of tomatoes, so that our tomato products are not only processed but also farmed in Ghana. When we achieve this, the positive impact of our business in Ghana will be exponential. Your Excellency, with the support of the Ministry of Food and Agriculture, the Ministry of Trade and Industry, we are working to identify locations for 2 adjacent farmlands of 7,000 acres each, where we plan to construct 2 industrial farms with integrated factories to process tomato concentrate.
Evans Mensah is the chairman of GB Foods there too, the stock market. And if you're an investor in Guinness Ghana Brewers Limited, the share price was up by 13 pesos to close at 1 Ghana cedi 50 pesos. That of MTN continues to soar up in terms of its price. It was up by 7 pesos to close at 1 Ghana cedi, that is 10 pesos. That of Unilever was also up by 29 pesos to close at 3 Ghana cedis 28 pesos. So some 3 share prices witnessing some substantial gain in prices at the end of trading on the Ghana Stock Exchange. And that's all for business on Newsnight.
George, thank you very much. Ernest Entry, I want to introduce you to that student. He's with the Accra Technical University. He launched a sachet water selling business wearing a suit. He decided to flip the street selling rules on its head after he realized the traditional way of selling didn't earn him enough to cater for his tuition and accommodation. But with 15% increase in school fees and skyrocketing accommodation, he fears his suit selling water business may not be enough to help him survive the harsh economy. My colleague Mamesi Nyameche Thompson has more in our latest Living Standard series.
The sight of Ernest wearing a suit in the steamy hot afternoon weather at Kingsway Market excites many traders. They get so excited that they rush to him to buy his chilled water. Within minutes, his water is finished. With many other sachet water vendors around, it is right to assume that the traders prolong their thirst just to buy water from a man in a suit. Ernest carries on his head a pan filled with chilled sachet water. He holds in his left hand a leather bag for his money and a tray in the right. He proudly walks through the market, ready to quench the thirst of his customers.
At first I was selling one, I was taking it to one bag, then I added some drink, but now the drink is expensive and it's not moving. So what I did was, I need to take the pure 2.5 bags, because the 2.5 bags, if I sell one bag, I get 4 cedis, 50%. So when I sell more, then I decide, then I do what? I save this.
His style of selling is unique. While other sachet water vendors wear ordinary clothes, Ernest is dressed for success. He has successfully branded himself as the suit-wearing iced water vendor. He doesn't only get eyeballs fixed on his suit, he also makes more money.
You're welcome. As I started selling, my highest water I've sold is 28 bags.
In a day?
In a day. I started 10 a.m. and I closed 6:30.
Following the death of his parents, he struggled to put himself through school. He was admitted to Accra Technical University to fulfill his lifelong dream of becoming a building contractor. With no support and a family to care for, he started selling sachet water.
Sometimes the work that we do it online, and you haven't registered, you are not part of the students. So I consulted a friend and said, you get 700 for me. So he also gave me 700 and I paid. The second semester, it's left with 1,000 for me to add up before I can continue the second semester. Then, so during the vacation, I started selling the water.
Despite his strategy, he makes marginal profits. It is not enough to take care of his tuition and accommodation fees.
Things is not easy. Things is not easy. Sometimes I will be on campus and my grandma will be like, Kobe, she needs money, she needs money. And what should I do? I need to come to the street and come and sell. And now the school fees has increased. I was thinking as we are moving forward, it will be reducing. Not knowing as we are moving forward, and it's also increasing. So at first I pay around 1,700 and now I'm paying 2,000. It has increased to 2,000. The hostel fee too has increased.
Ernest tries to send monthly stipends to his grandmother and 2 sisters back home in the village of Agunansaba. Despite his unique selling ability, he is unable to send money frequently. Balancing education with hawking water is daunting. Today, he has ditched classes just to make enough money to pay his tuition and accommodation fees.
This semester started, I was thinking of how to pay the fees one and where I will sleep. Because my uncle's place now, I can't always sleep in a car and also come to campus. So I need to do what? Work out, go to class and come to the street and sell. And I need to also pay the school fees, and that has become my headache now.
Ernest Entry says shyness doesn't cure hunger. So he would break his back to put food on his table. But he also has his hand wide open to anyone who would help.
Oh, what a lovely story there. That's the story of how to grind and make it in the midst of an economic crisis. And I want to hear from you, any of you experiencing what you just heard there from NSHE. Share your own experiences with us, how you're surviving in these hard times. Are you also possibly selling sachet water to survive? I want to hear. 0551111 Now, he recently resigned from cabinet to pursue his ambition to lead the MPP into the 2024 elections. Tonight, former Agric Minister Dr. Owusu Afriyie-Akoto has disclosed he was unable to fully fulfill his ambition of transforming the country's economy through agriculture because he did not receive all the funding he needed for the 6 years he remained in cabinet. He says several budgetary demands were not met due to competing needs. He says, unlike President Akufo-Addo, who prioritized education, he would do things differently if he leads the party and wins the 2024 elections.
We haven't been prioritized enough to do that. That is my thesis.
I see that in your lecture. Ghana has to prioritize agricultural transformation at the highest level of government. Yes. You call that a political will. Mm-hmm. Are you implying that the government you were part of for 6 years didn't prioritize agriculture?
No, within the limits they did. But the thing is that I can tell you, running the ministry, whole areas that needed resources couldn't be done because there are other activities which are also taken from the same pot. We need to prioritize and make agriculture the center of the priority.
But you prioritize agriculture in your 6 years in
Well,
government.
no, I cannot prioritize.
The president?
Yes. The president's priority, one of the priorities is free education. So you look at a budget for education, a balloon, and is supporting a free education.
So other sectors took priority over agric.
Well,
in the last 6 years.
What I'm saying is that at least I'm giving you the example of the free education. But I'm saying that for me, the priority would be agriculture.
And not education?
Well, but where do you fund education from? The discovery for me is the way Ghanaian farmers respond to the minimum incentive given.
But you gave them the minimum incentive.
But what I'm saying, minimum, the things we were not there before, we were giving them in significant quantities.
But that data you just shared proves the fact that in the last 6 years, the president prioritized agriculture.
Well, no, it means that the performance has been better than before. But that it could have been, because these figures I'm talking about, 3-4 metric tons per hectare from 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, we could go to 10.
Yeah, but Doc, I hear you say
that's the point.
I hear you say that the president did not fully prioritize agriculture in the last 6 years.
No. What I'm saying is that the budget that I needed to run the sector, the country couldn't afford it. But when I say priority, it means that what is not what you will get from the allocation, but what we require to make the impact.
What did you require that you didn't get in the last 6 years?
For instance, every year I was asking for, say, 1.6 billion Ghana cedis, 2 billion Ghana cedis, and because the pot was small, it's cut back to maybe 1 billion or 800 million, see, for the ministry. That's what I mean, that if in an attempt to give everybody a little bit, the priority should be given to agriculture.
I'm pretty sure you knew this before you resigned. In cabinet, did you raise this? And what was the response that
yes. As a cabinet minister, I swear an oath of secrecy. I can't come here and tell you what happens in cabinet. You should know better than that. I'm not supposed to tell you what goes on in cabinet. But if you know my character, I'm not somebody who will sit in a corner and weep. Okay? So let's leave it there.
What did you do about the problems when you realized these are my challenges? because as a leader, you solve problems. So when Dr. Friakutu realized that this is the way out, what did he do about it?
I have to draw attention to it, which I did.
And that, by the way, is Dr. Owusu Afriye-Akoto, former Greek minister. And joining me in the studio is a man who possibly is vying to be the next
FIFA president.
Musbao is here with the sports news. Hello, Musbao.
Yes, even so, it's FIFA in the news, and it has switched the format for the expanded 2026 World Cup back to 4-team groups. The competition in the United States, Mexico, and Canada was due to feature 16 group of 3 teams because of the number of teams increasing from 32 to 48. But the success of the 4-team format at the 2022 World Cup in Qatar caused the governing body to reconsider the decision. The move expands the competition from its projected 80 matches to 104 matches, including a new round of 32 stage. FIFA said the top 2 8 and best 3rd place teams will progress to the last 32. Now, the main reason, part of the reason why FIFA decided to switch from the 3-team group format to the 4-team group format include the statement from FIFA reading that the revised format mitigates the risk of collusion and ensures that all the teams play a minimum of 3 matches while providing balanced rest time between competing teams. That's what FIFA said. So the move was approved at FIFA's council meeting in Rwanda. So key events, we're going to see 48 teams participate in the next World Cup. There's a new stage introduced, which is the round of 32, and the 8 third best placed teams will get the opportunity to advance from the group stages. Sounds like good news for Ghana, isn't it?
We'll see how it benefits us eventually.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Ms. Bao. Now, the nation continues to face many economic challenges, with government urged by many analysts to cut down on costs. Some staff of the Controller and Accountant General's Department are, however, fighting over cars. Now, they have described as pathetic and disheartening the allocation of Camry instead of Land Cruiser Prado to management and senior staff of the department. The entity which is responsible for keeping and disbursing public funds is unhappy, whilst deputy directors in other government agencies, including the Ministry of Finance, are driving 4-wheel drive. Their top bosses are being forced to drive in Camrys. Listen to staff of the department at their annual conference in Imprioso.
I don't understand reason why a department like this, which is very powerful when it comes to finances, all our deputy controllers are using Camry. Meanwhile, you go to ministries, especially Ministry of Finance, and you see deputy directors are using V8, using Camry. It's very, very pathetic. When you come to even regional level, you see some institution, the directors are having V8 and others. Are they better than us? And when we, the young people, we see some of these things, at times it's very discouraging and disheartening. I'm pleading that controller, you do your best for us, not for them, for all of us, so that our deputy controllers, if not even, at least not V8, they should be given Prado. Our regional directors and the various directors at the head office should be also given Fortuners or any better car than the Camry and the pickup our bosses are using. It's very, very disheartening. Thank you.
But the Controller and Accountant General, Kwesi Kwenin Busumpim, says the staff must make do with what they have.
If you listen to the last budget very well, the finance minister or the president indicated that going forward, even heads of departments are to use saloon cars for day-to-day work, and then 4-wheel drive when you are going out of Accra. So we are trying our best. These Camrys are new Camrys. We bought them new. In fact, when I was brought in as deputy, I was given some old Honda, and on my way to my hometown, I got overheating on the way. It took me another 3 hours to move. At least these cars are not even more than 2 years old.
Well, there's a story at the Controller and Accountant General's Department. And just before we go, Inzulezu, a village on stilts in the western region, is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Aside from 600 people living on the water, tourists also come to experience the village as well as the local alcohol produced